Hello, we're Team Brace for Impact. Bianca and I will present, Bianca and myself, Robert, will present our data, and our other team members are Asher, Charles, and Elena. I'll start by giving you a description of our project and the data sources and some of the challenges, and then Bianca will go into the analysis itself. First of all, our project concentrated on the 2016 U.S. primary state elections. What we're trying to do is analyze the data, but also answer the question that were posed to us, which was, what is the most valuable data science skill? There were three main things that we kind of thought it could be. Those three were data wrangling, data analysis, and data visualization. However, we want to go through the whole process to find out and comment on which one was actually the toughest, or basically which one was the most valuable. Our data sets consisted of three files that we had to merge. The first file had the vote counts and percentages for each of the candidates for the Democrats and the Republicans. The second file had a whole lot of descriptors of the counties themselves. And a third file was a description of those. We came up to about 50 county, or I'm sorry, about 50 demographics. And it just kind of gave us the headers for that. So we had to merge all three of those files together. And what we did is we tied them into a key column called a FIPS code. What that was is it basically had a unique identifier for each county. So when we merged these together, there were some problems that we were dealing with trying to get them all together. One of the problems was that there were some states that didn't have this code for some reason. And then on other times that the reporting of the data was done by a city or towns or sometimes even congressional districts, which didn't line up the data. It posed some problems, and in all we had to make some tough decisions, and there were 12 states that were not included, but including all six New England states. So there was a little bit of bias in there. However, we had to put it all together to make this go. One of the things in the future we were thinking of is maybe, if we were going further with this, adding more candidates, maybe clustering the counties, and then if we had some more data, maybe even comparing to the general election. However, for the results of this, we will go to Bianca.
Hello everyone, this is Bianca. I plan to go over some of the aspects that we did in our code related to our project. First, let me mention that for the first data set we had about the election results, after we import that into R, our data set is in the long format in terms of candidates, so we adjust that, transform that to the wide format. The second data set, after importing to R, we had to remove NAs, so there are rows with total for each state. So since we didn't need that, those observations because of summary, a function of R, we eliminate that. Also, we needed to make an adjustment to the table because the columns were coded, so the headers were not meaningful, and we had to merge the second data table with the third file, which contained the headers of all the columns. Finally, once we have our two main data sets prepared, imported, and clean in R, we merge them, and we try two different ways, but the best way possible was by the FIPS codes, as Robert mentioned. And proceeding with the analysis after the preparation of the data, we use a backward elimination process to identify the most significant metrics in terms of demographic in relation to votes gained by the candidates. So here is the visualization of one of our data analysis. In this graph, you can see that we have the number of households per count and plotted in relation to the number of votes per candidate. And in this particular graph, we're choosing the results of the election, the primary election in Indiana, Florida, and Pennsylvania counties, where Trump won in those states. We can see that on the first graph, we have that Clinton has a more positive correlation between the number of households with relation to the number of votes that she received than what we see for the candidate Trump. Finally, I just want to mention one more graph that we use in our analysis, and that use the metric of percent of white population in the counties. So here we see the plot for both candidate Clinton and Sanders, where we have the number of votes plotted in relation to the white population in the counts. So what we can see for Clinton is that we have a slightly negative correlation between the percent of votes and the percent of white population in the counts than what we see for Sanders, which we can see a slightly positive correlation. So we had more analysis done, but because of the restriction of time, I just want to point out that, as Robert mentioned, the three skills that we developed in this project were data wrangling, data visualization, data analysis. We consider all these skills important, but I think the most important of all of them is, we think that the most important of all of them is the data wrangling, because data analysis and data visualization depend on the success of how well we do the data wrangling. So I'm going to stop at this moment, so feel free to ask questions to my classmates.